The night air was cool and quiet. In a small town, everyone was already asleep. The only sounds were the soft rustling of tree leaves and the faint hum of a passing train. On a peaceful street with small houses lived Eleanor Whitmore. She was 73 years old. Eleanor had silver hair and a gentle smile. The neighbors liked her, and she was always kind to everyone. Eleanor had lived a good life. She had many happy memories. Her husband, Harold, had passed away 5 years ago. Eleanor missed him, but she stayed strong. She took care of her garden. She wrote letters to old friends. She walked in the park where she and Harold used to sit together. She baked cookies for new neighbors and never forgot a birthday. But there was one thing about Eleanor that people didn't always see. She could be stubborn. She didn't like it when people told her what to do, especially about her health. When her daughter or doctor gave advice, she would say, "I know my body. I know what I can handle." That's where this story begins, on a night that seemed like any other, but wasn't. It was just past 9 o'clock at night. Eleanor sat in her favorite chair by the window. The moonlight made her garden look silver. Everything felt calm. But that night, Eleanor felt restless. Maybe she was lonely. Maybe she just wanted something to do. So she decided to have a late snack. And that was her first mistake. 1. The heavy late-night meal. Eleanor went to the kitchen. Instead of her usual light snack, she cooked leftover meat and potatoes. She said, "Why not? I deserve it." She even had a slice of pie with cream. The food was warm and comforting. It reminded her of old family dinners. But what Eleanor didn't know was that a heavy meal late at night can be dangerous for seniors. As we get older, our digestion slows down. Lying down after a big meal can cause acid to come up into the throat. Food or drink can slip into the lungs without us noticing. This is called silent aspiration. It can cause choking or breathing problems. But Eleanor didn't think of that. She finished her meal and felt full and happy. She went back to her chair. Outside, the wind blew gently. Eleanor pulled a blanket over her lap and closed her eyes for a little while. The house was quiet. She could hear the ticking of the clock. Tick, tock, tick, tock. A little later, she made another choice that added to her risk. 2. Sleeping flat on her back. Usually, Eleanor slept with extra pillows. She liked to keep her head raised because of heartburn. But tonight, she was so full and tired that she lay down flat on the sofa. It felt soft and comfortable. She didn't know that lying flat after a big meal makes it easier for acid to come up into the throat. It can cause choking or even silent aspiration. When we get older, our bodies don't always wake us up in time if something goes wrong. The night seemed peaceful. The moonlight shone softly. Eleanor drifted off to sleep. But as she slept, her breathing became slow. The heavy meal sat in her stomach. A bit of food or acid crept into her throat, but she did not wake up to cough. The house stayed silent. The clock kept ticking. 3. Closing the windows and turning off the fan. Earlier in the evening, Eleanor felt a bit cold. She turned off her bedroom fan, and she also closed the windows to keep the chill out. But this stopped fresh air from coming into her room. As the night went on, the air became stuffy. There was less oxygen and more carbon dioxide. Eleanor's breathing became harder, but she did not wake up. Older people's bodies do not adjust well to low oxygen. Fresh air can help, but that night, her room stayed closed. The danger grew quietly. If someone had checked on her, they might have noticed her pale face. They might have heard the soft struggle in her breath, but no one was there. The house was still. The clock kept ticking. 4. Taking a double dose of sleep aid. This was Eleanor's final mistake that night. She kept a small bottle of sleep aid pills in her drawer. She rarely took them, but tonight she felt lonely and restless. She took 2 pills instead of 1. "Just this once," she said to herself, "I want to sleep well." But as we age, our bodies process medicine more slowly. A double dose made her breathing even slower. It dulled her body's signals to wake up. She sank into a deep sleep that became dangerous. The clock ticked past midnight. Eleanor lay still. On the outside, she looked peaceful, but inside, her body was struggling. The house was quiet. The moonlight came through the window. In the distance, a dog barked once and then stopped. The night seemed gentle, but hidden dangers had built up around Eleanor. Dangers she never saw coming. Before we continue with Eleanor's story, I want to take a moment to thank you for watching. If you find this story helpful, if it reminds you of someone you care about, please take a second to like this video. It really helps more people in our community find these important messages. Also, consider subscribing to Wisdom Through Time. Your support means a lot. And feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Now let's continue. The night grew deeper. The town stayed quiet. Eleanor's little home sat in the dark, still and silent. The choices she made that evening were working quietly against her. Each small decision on its own might not have been so bad, but together they had built up into something dangerous. Eleanor was sleeping deeply now. The 2 sleep aid pills had done their work. They slowed her breathing. Her body's natural reflexes were dulled. The heavy meal sat in her stomach. The acid slowly crept up toward her throat. With her head lying flat, there was nothing to stop it. And because she was in such a deep sleep, she did not wake up when her body needed help. The closed windows and the fan that was turned off made the air in her room warm and stale. There was no fresh air coming in. The oxygen level in the room dropped bit by bit. The carbon dioxide level rose. Her body struggled silently, but no alarm sounded. No one was there to notice. Outside, the stars shone bright. A light breeze moved the leaves in the trees. But inside Eleanor's house, nothing moved. The clock kept ticking. The night kept passing. In another home down the street, a neighbor sat reading a book. His lamp glowed softly. If he had looked out his window, he might have noticed that Eleanor's house was dark, with no sign of light or movement. But he didn't look. He turned another page, unaware of what was happening just a few houses away. Inside Eleanor's home, time slipped by. The risks were now all working together. The heavy meal, the sleeping position, the closed room, and the double dose of pills had made a quiet trap. Eleanor's breathing slowed even more. Her heart worked harder to get enough oxygen, but the oxygen just wasn't there. Sometimes people think danger comes with loud warnings or sudden signs, but for seniors, danger at night can be silent. There is no loud alarm, there is no clear sign. The body simply grows weaker while it sleeps. And that's what happened to Eleanor. The house stayed quiet. The night grew colder. The room stayed still. Eleanor's chest rose and fell, slower and slower. What makes this story so important is what we can learn from it. Eleanor didn't mean to put herself at risk. Each choice she made that night felt small, even harmless. But for seniors, small choices can add up. Things that seem safe, a heavy meal, lying flat, taking an extra pill, can quietly lead to real danger during sleep. As the night went on, the risks around Eleanor became stronger. But the world outside stayed peaceful. The town slept on, and Eleanor's house stayed dark, still, and silent. Morning came slowly. The first light of day touched the tops of the trees. Birds began to sing softly, waking the quiet town. The world felt fresh and new. But inside Eleanor's little house, nothing had changed. The house was still, the air was heavy, and Eleanor, gently Eleanor, had passed away during the night. When her daughter arrived later that morning to check in, she knew right away that something was wrong. The house was too quiet. The air inside felt warm and stale. The curtains were still drawn. Eleanor's daughter called out, but there was no answer. She found her mother resting on the sofa, peaceful in appearance, but no longer alive. It was a heartbreak that no one expected. Eleanor had seemed well just the day before. She had smiled, laughed, and talked about her garden. But during the night, the choices she made added up in a way that became too much for her body. This story is not shared to bring sadness, but to bring awareness, because what happened to Eleanor can happen to others, and these dangers can be avoided with small changes. Let's look again at the 4 things that made that night so dangerous for Eleanor. 1. Eating a heavy meal late at night. A large, greasy meal can be hard for the body to digest, especially for seniors. It can cause acid reflux and increase the chance of food or liquid moving into the airway during sleep. Seniors should aim for lighter evening meals and allow a few hours before lying down. 2. Sleeping flat on the back. Sleeping flat after a big meal can let stomach acid move up into the throat. This can cause choking or silent aspiration. It's safer for seniors to sleep with their head slightly raised, especially if they have heartburn or reflux. 3. Closing windows and turning off fans. Good airflow during sleep helps the body get the oxygen it needs. A closed room can become stuffy, and low oxygen can make sleep more dangerous. Keeping a window cracked or a fan on low can help keep the air fresh. 4. Taking extra sleep aids. Medicine affects seniors more strongly. A dose that once felt safe can become risky with age. Always follow the directions on the label or speak to a doctor before changing a dose. Natural sleep habits like a calming bedtime routine are often safer. Eleanor's story reminds us that small decisions matter. One little choice can seem harmless, but when small risks add up, they can create a hidden danger, especially during sleep when the body is less able to respond. If you care for a senior loved one, or if you are a senior yourself, remember these lessons. Share them with friends and family. And please, if you have a parent, friend, or family member over 70, share this story with them. It might help them stay safe tonight. Eleanor's daughter later shared her mother's story with others in their town. She hoped that by doing so, other families might avoid the same sadness. And that is why we share it with you today, not to cause worry, but to help keep our loved ones safe. Thank you for listening to Eleanor's story. Stay safe, stay kind, and remember, sometimes it's the small choices that make the biggest difference.